girl. That's hot.
Hey, what's up? It's Emoji Nightmare, and I'm so glad to be back. It's episode 5 of RuPaul's Drag Race season 14. Alyssa Hunter is gone, and the queens are kind of talking about what they need to do to step up at the stage of the competition. Bosco's talking about how they really want to win. Lady Camden is ready to give that cheeky sparkle. Carrie is ready to get ugly, and Cornbread is just afraid of being perceived as weak. The next day in the workroom, there is something strange because Cornbread is nowhere to be seen. RuPaul greets the queens, all except for Cornbread, and announces that Cornbread has a special video message for them. And apparently she tweaked her ankle, which there was a little bit of foreshadowing last episode. And per the doctor's orders, she is to be off of it for 6 to 8 weeks, which means she can no longer compete in the race. Cornbread has some lovely things to share with some of the remaining queens, and I honestly don't think a ton of people seemed super upset. Willow was obviously upset, but Di even mentioned this is a tough competitor who is no longer in the race, which honestly just makes it a little easier for them. Once all those buffalo tears were dried, the queens were introduced to how they were going to be divvied up into the main challenge groups. So they had a balloon, the balloon was filled with confetti, they had to pop the balloon. Well, they had to pop it against a pit crew member, which involved some thrusting and some forcing and some just gyration of any such way that you could make it. And some queens were really easy. You can kind of tell who the tops are in other ways, right? With a one big, oh, and they got a... We're then told that each of the teams will be assigned a first eliminated queen. So we've got Tempest du Jour from season 7, we have James Mansfield from season 9, and Kimora Hall from season 13. And each of those queens will be in it with a different group, and they will be creating a PSA for a brand new organization called Save a Queen. You've seen all those PSAs, like what Carrie calls the shaky-legged dog. Like, we know them, we love them. Or you love to hate them. But that's what the queens are going to be recreating this week. On the runway, the category is Spring Has Sprung. So we're seeing things like flowery looks, Easter bunnies, pastel colors. We're even seeing some weather related. We've got some storm clouds, some storms that turn into sunshine. It's actually a really lovely runway. I'm quite fond of a lot of these looks. For me, the top looks, I really liked Maddie Morphous's the fringy rain cloud. Love that, would totally wear that. I don't know if it would do great things for my body type, but definitely loved that. I also was a fan of Lady Camden's tea party. So she had this like whole, it was almost like she was the table with the tea set up. We're seeing some really interesting, really dynamic looks this season. The queens are certainly elevating it in different ways. It's time to watch the PSA, and honestly, they're not terrible. There are some duds, and there's also some real standouts. Diabetti, Lady Camden, and Bosco is a team of 3, because I think obviously with Cornbread's quick exit, they weren't really prepared. I think they were going to be even teams, but I actually think it was an advantage for there to be a team of 3, because there was a little less, there were less disparate voices in the challenge, and you could have a little bit more cohesion. And I think honestly they did the best job. Overall, some queens are sent to safety, and we're left with the tops and bottoms. The bottoms are Georges, Orion Story, and more on this in a minute, and Jasmine Kennedy. And the tops were Lady Camden, Bosco, and Angeria. So back to Orion's story. I do just want to say, I want to state on the record, I want to address the camel toe in the room and just say, I have been calling her Orion Story. I thought it was like a take on Origin Story. I don't really get Orion. I get it's like an astrological, it's a belt or something, it's stars. Orion Story, I don't quite get that, but so I just want to name, some people have mentioned that I've been calling Orion incorrectly, and I just want to, I want to address it, and I also want to say I think her name's fucking dumb. And that's coming from me. My name is Emoji Nightmare. Anyway, we find out that Bosco is the winner this week, which is definitely due. She's a strong competitor. She's often ranked high on my rankings, which we'll also get to. And the bottom queens who are lip syncing for their lives are Georges and Orion Story. No, Orion's story. I still can't do it. Thank God Orion's story does a terrible job. She's flipped her shoes off, her wig is falling back, she looks a hot mess, the lip sync's boring. Georges is giving it her all. I think Georges' outfit was a little ill-fitting, but overall, an excellent lip sync for your life from Georges, and she is safe. All right, Orion is gone. Here are my rankings. Of course, my top competitor last week was Cornbread, so that leaves a lot of movement on my rankings. We're down to just 10 queens. I do have Georges technically at the bottom this week, but I also really have never felt a strong connection to Deja Skye. And with my number one girl, Cornbread, heading home, it leaves that spot open, and I think kind of Angeria is holding that spot, but don't discredit Bosco or Carrie or Willow. I think those are all my real tops this season. Once again, thank you so much for taking part in my polls on Instagram. I so appreciate it, and I'll see you again next week.